Okay, kids, so welcome to Ser versus Estar, part dos. And in this particular video, what we're going to do is we're going to explore some of what I like to call the tricky situations. That is to say, the situations that come up where it's often more difficult or complicated to tell the differences between Ser and Estar. So the first situation that we're going to look at is the location versus the location of an event. So what I'd like you to try to do is to pause the video and try the two examples that are in this pink color and see which sentence you think requires Ser and which sentence you think requires Estar. Then I want you to begin to think about why. Okay, so hopefully what you've come up with for answers here are, the first one should be los novios están en la iglesia, en la boda es en la iglesia. In other words, when you talk about the location of people or the location of an object, we are going to use the verb estar. That's what we learned when we looked at elf cops. To say how you're feeling, where you are, always use the verb estar. When we are talking specifically about the location of an event, we are going to use the verb ser. La boda es en la iglesia. The bride and groom are in the church. That's the location of the people. But la boda es en la iglesia. That the wedding is in the church. That is the location of an event. So again, location of people, objects, estar. Location of event is ser. Now with this information, again, pause the video and try the two examples at the bottom. Okay, hopefully what we've come up with here is that el concierto es en el estadio, en la gente está en el estadio para el concierto de música rock. Again, the location is in the location of people, such as in the second sentence, we're going to use estar. The people are in the stadium for the rock concert. The first sentence is the location of an event, and we're going to use ser for that. The concert is in the stadium. Location of people and objects, estar. Location of an event, specifically, ser. Our second tricky situation comes with appearances versus reality. Appearances versus reality. And thinking about the other reasons why we have used ser or estar up until this point, with those in mind, try the example on the top and see what you come up with. But again, as you're doing the example, think, why am I using ser or why am I using estar? All right, hopefully what you've come up with here is, Señor García tiene 80 años. Es muy viejo, pero está joven, porque hace ejercicio todos los días. In this particular example and the other examples like it, the reality of the situation is always going to be used with the verb ser. It's what something is. In other words, it's its characteristics. In this example, Mr. Garcia is 80 years old. He is old. That is the reality of the situation, that he is old. But he is young. In other words, he feels young because he does exercise every day. The reality of the situation is that he is old. We know that because it says that he's 80. The appearance of the situation, the way he appears, is that he is young, even though he's really not. He's really not young. He only appears young because he does exercise every day. The appearance of the situation is estar. The reality of the situation, what actually is going to be ser. With this information in mind, try the example that's at the bottom. Okay, hopefully what you've come up with here at the bottom is, Jaime es un chico de 10 años. Está muy alto para su edad. That Jaime is a boy that's 10 years old, and he's very tall for his age. The reality of the situation is that he's a boy. The appearance here is that he is tall. He is not actually tall in comparison with everybody, but he is tall for his age. So the appearance is that he is tall, but the reality of the situation is that he is a boy. So again, the way things actually are, the reality of the situation, we're going to use the verb ser, and the way things appear to be is going to be estar. The last of our tricky situations comes with inherent traits. Inherent traits is another way of saying the way objects are supposed to be, what is natural or inherent to an object or even to a person, versus the temporary conditions, the way objects temporarily are. So I want you to think about, again, the reasons why we have used ser or estar up until this point, and try the two examples at the top. So hopefully what you've come up with here is los tomates son rojos, los tomates están verdes. Let's think about this for a minute here. Los tomates son rojos. The tomatoes are red. That is an inherent trait of a tomato to be red. Tomatoes are supposed to be red. Los tomates son rojos. Los tomates están verdes. Tomatoes are green. In other words, the tomatoes are not ripe yet. That is a temporary condition of the tomato. That when it is green, it is not ripe, and eventually it will change and it will become red because that's what it's supposed to become. So an inherent trait is going to be the verb ser, and then a temporary condition of the object is going to be estar. Again, this is one of those situations where you don't want to overthink. Well, being red is a temporary characteristic of a tomato, but it's going to change if nobody eats it. It'll become wrecked in a different color, so that should be estar too. Try not to overthink the situation. Inherent characteristics, ser, the way an object's supposed to be. Tomatoes are supposed to be red. And estar for the temporary conditions. Another example using food would be something like las bananas son amarillas, because bananas are supposed to be yellow. Las bananas están verdes, they're green, they're not ripe, they're not ready yet. With this information in mind, try the example that's at the bottom. So hopefully what we've come up with here on the bottom is el té está frío. El té es caliente. The tea is cold. Tea is not supposed to be cold. And wait, before anyone starts getting all upset, oh, what about iced tea? This is not iced tea. This is hot tea. There's a separate word for iced tea in Spanish, and that is el té helado. So we're not talking about iced tea. We're talking about hot tea. So stop overthinking situations. El té está frío, el té es caliente. Tea is not supposed to be cold. That is the temporary condition of the tea. Tea is supposed to be hot. That's why we're going to use ser with this one. El té es caliente. Again, inherent traits, the way objects are supposed to be, ser. Temporary conditions, those conditions that can be changed for an object, estar. One quick note on conditions or feelings. We talked when we did ELF comps that estar is used for locations and feelings, to say how you're feeling and where you are. Always use the verb estar. Included in that idea of feelings is also the idea of conditions, meaning the condition of an object. For instance, in the sample sentence here, el reloj está rojo. El reloj está rojo. The watch is broken. That is a condition of the watch to be broken. It's really not supposed to be. So we're going to use estar when we talk about conditions of objects. La puerta está abierta. The door is open. That is a condition of the door. Think of it as something that can be changed. The last slide that we're going to talk about are words that change meaning. These are words that can be used with both ser and estar, but they change what they mean dependent upon which verb you're using. So again, words that can be used with either ser or estar, but they change their meaning based on which particular verb you use, and they need to be used in the correct context. So what I would like you to try to do is, again, thinking about the differences that we've discussed between ser versus estar, is to maybe come up with some definitions for as many of these words as you possibly can, and then we'll go over them. All right, let's see how many of these you were able to come up with. Again, thinking about ser as more of a characteristic and estar more as a location or feeling, a temporary state. Aburrido with ser means you're a boring person, a characteristic. Estar is more of a condition that you're currently bored. Bueno, a characteristic that you're a good person, whereas estar, more of a condition that you're feeling well right now. Frio, again with ser, a characteristic, you're a cold person, not very nice. With estar, that you're feeling cold right now. Interesado, this one's kind of a false cognate. With ser, it means you're selfish. In other words, you're only interested in yourself. But with estar, it's a temporary condition, that you are interested in something. Limpio, ser, a characteristic, meaning you're cleanly, that you are a cleanly person. You like things neat and organized, etc. With estar, it means something is newly cleaned. Mi cuarto está limpio. My bedroom is clean right now, for right now. So we all know that's something that changes quite a bit. Listo, with ser, this one is more of a word that's difficult to tell. You kind of have to memorize this one. It's a characteristic. It means you're smart. So listo. With estar, it is a condition. Ready. You may have heard teachers in the past say, están listos. Are you ready? Loco, with ser, a characteristic. Crazy. You're like a crazy person. Ella es loca. With estar, this is more you are acting crazy. It's a condition. It's nighttime. It would be Halloween. You're wearing a costume. Oh, él está loco. He's acting crazy right now. Malo, again, a characteristic that you're a bad person. It's like evil. Malo with estar, a condition that you're just feeling poorly right now. You're sick. You don't feel that great. Moreno, somebody that is moreno, it's a characteristic. You are a dark-skinned person. That is your nature. You are always dark-skinned. With estar, it's more of a condition that you're tanned. Orgulloso, good word to know, orgulloso. With ser, it is a characteristic, and it means that you are selfish. With estar, it means that you are proud. So think of it as ser, as you're just proud of yourself. But with estar, more proud. Estoy muy orgulloso de ti. Very proud of you. Pálido, with ser, a characteristic, you are pale-skinned. That you are a person that you are very pale-skinned all the time. With estar, it means that you're pale as in you're sick. You don't look that well. Él está pálido. He is pale. It doesn't look too good. Rico, with ser, characteristic, you're rich. You got the mucho dinero. With estar, it means something's tasty. More of an adjective that's used with describe food. La comida está muy rica. Very rich, very tasty. Seguro, with ser, it is a characteristic that it's safe. Mi casa es muy segura. My house is very safe. With estar, it's more that you're certain about something. Estoy seguro de que. I'm sure that. The next one is verde. Something is actually green. Mi casa es verde. My house is green. And as we saw with the tomatoes example, when we use it with estar, it's more of a condition that something is not ripe. Los tomates están verdes. And our very last one is vivo. And vivo with ser is more of a characteristic that you're alert, you're lively. And with estar, unfortunately, it's a temporary state. It means that you are alive. El gato está vivo. The cat is alive. But of course, that's going to change. So again, this video was all about the tricky situations in which ser and estar are used. This is a quick example of how those words that change meaning can be used contextually. In this example here, we have los estudiantes están aburridos porque la profesora es aburrida. The students are bored, temporary condition, because the teacher is boring. She's a boring person. So knowing those words contextually really does help, and it makes a difference. So again, this video was all about those tricky or more complicated situations, appearances versus reality, inherent versus temporary characteristics, locations versus location events, and words that change meaning. And this is elevating ser versus estar to a level that goes beyond the basics that you can find with ELF cops. If you have any questions, make sure you write them down, and I'll take them in class, and I hope you enjoyed these videos. Okay, kids?